Heyo, my PlanCo friends, Johnny5 Alive here, and welcome back to another episode of Project PlanCo. We have another massive milestone here today as we have our first completed area in the entire park. Good googly moogly, Main Street is technically finished. Well, it does still need some little polish here and there, some extra doodads, some painting, some little trees and bushes. All that's going to be done with the final pass of polish throughout the whole park, but all of the plots are in. All 6 buildings, I believe it is, and the main entrance. So some amazing builds. This is the first thing you're going to see when you walk into the park, just a strip of PlanCo style themed buildings. This is the Frontier / Planet Coaster build set using the modern PlanCo pieces, and all of the different buildings not only cohesively matched together, but they've all been constructed in different various ways. It's been very fun seeing how all of these buildings came in and how people use the pieces in creative ways. So not only will we be taking a look at the entire Main Street all together to kind of take a tour through our first completed area of the park, but we have the 3 builds that were placed in here for today's episode that we're going to be reviewing. They're the final 3 builds to complete this area. So we're going to be placing them in, reviewing them, checking them out, and we got a few extra audio surprises to showcase in today's video. So absolutely amazing. Why don't we get right on into it? Pop! All right, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Channel 5 music created by Jeffry-Wynne Prince, also The Bitter Elegance. Jeffry-Wynne is the lead guitarist and audio engineer for The Bitter Elegance, which this project is in partnership with. So all of the Bitter Elegance music that you hear throughout the park, the rides, the main attractions, the areas that we're adding it into, was designed by the Bitter Elegance band, and Jeffry-Wynne is the lead guitarist and audio engineer for that, and he was too busy to get a plot, and this plot became available, so we passed it over to him, and now he was able to build this. Originally, it was supposed to be a Hats Fantastic shop, just a generic shopping building, so I told him just to put a Hats Fantastic in there so they come in and buy merch, but he could make it whatever general store that he wanted to, and he went with the direction of making it a Channel 5 music shop, but he didn't use the Hats Fantastic, he used just a memento. But that's fine. All we really care is that the guests will come down here and buy stuff throughout the Main Street. They're going in and out of buildings. There's things for them to purchase. And having the Channel 5 Gaming Music Shop was actually brilliant because this is a music park. There's going to be a lot of audio engineering. There's going to be a lot of songs, and in partnership with the Bitter Elegance, it's kind of like an oversight to to not have a music store. Plus, we already have like a cinema, we have a club, and then we have some extra stuff that's still yet to be shown. That's gonna start tying some of these things together, and I think you guys are gonna really like it, and it kind of makes sense to have this music shop in here. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, and there's a nice little Easter egg for us to check out inside a sequenced event. So this build is actually kind of my favorite, and I'm not trying to brown nose or anything like that. Obviously, I love you, Jeffrey, but what you decided to do with these PlanCo pieces is actually very different from everybody else in the fact that you took the basic shapes and integrated them in, as well as these panels, to make some really interesting designs here. And the shape of the building has a lot of layering. We have this, I never thought to do this, but everyone's been doing the wavy thing. You did the wavy thing, but then alternated it and staggered it. And I just thought that was brilliant, and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? But then you have the same thing going on underneath. There's lots of levels of complexity here using the white pieces with the brown and the blue that I don't think have really been represented on any of the other builds. Now, while we are all incorporating bits of white, I did mine with the neon white strips and that sort of thing, and we're all using the waviness. Like I said, I think this one has just a little bit more complexity to it in how the white and the waves were used, and it's all like condensed. It is a smaller build, and it just makes me think, like, if this design choice, the way you use the pieces, was on a much larger building, how would that look? So again, it goes back to how many different ways can you use these pieces and what can you come up with. And I think from this, like, we're still evolving and learning. I feel like if we did another dozen of these, we would get even better and better and better and better with the techniques used. There's just so many different techniques used throughout these buildings here. Every time a new one comes in, it's like, oh, I didn't think of that, or oh, I didn't see that. Really cool build here. It's very petite and nice. The giant guitar on the front is a huge, awesome touch to make this all come together. The sign, even though you're using the in-game PlanCo signs, I think they turned out really nicely. This is probably one of the best ways to use the signs in creative ways, staggering the letters and trying to separate them a little bit. And you don't get these just kind of like boring flat signs. And also it's, you know, the next best thing to obviously being able to get your own TMTK sign, which can be expensive, time cost, take a lot of time and that sort of thing. So for using what was available in game, I think you did a really good job. Now I did do one small little adjustment. Actually I did a couple. Don't get mad at me, but I think they were good. So this letter or this music note wasn't there. I added that in there. There's just this like negative space here that was kind of bothering me. And I figured by just putting that music note there, it kind of like all ties it together. Put something into that negative space. It's a music note. So I was like, you know, just kind of came to my mind, and I thought, you know, putting that there just kind of completed it. There was just that little blank spot that was bothering me. So that was one of the small adjustments I made. Let's go on inside. This is really cool. Let's probably switch it to nighttime as well. This is amazing. So originally, Jeffrey downloaded TMTK guitars and just line the walls with them. I told him he could use a couple TMTK and he just went nuts. And I was like, that is way too expensive. We're going to kill the park with your shop alone. And then so I also provided him with Bughool's guitar set. Let me see if I can actually find it here. If you guys are interested in it, you can find it on Boogie's workshop. We'll pop out just for a second over here and put these down. So Bughool made all this stuff, and that's really cool. Like, they're all made out of PlanCo pieces. The guitar is 30 pieces. The drum set is 65. And then you have these little speakers, 30 pieces, 30 pieces, 30 pieces. I told Jeffrey he could use these, but he says that either they were too expensive, like too many pieces, or they were slightly too large. So I guess just to save on part count, he decided against it, which I think is reasonable. But instead he made wrong shop. He made a custom image of the TMTK. So these were the TMTK. They were a lot of polygons, and there was three drum sets and a bunch of guitars and speakers. So just taking a picture of it and then putting that picture on a billboard was actually smart. The only downside to this is now you have to download custom images when visiting our park. I will request that Jeffrey either converts them into TMTK. If we hop over to my Club 5 here, these look like images, but they're actually not. These are TMTK. They're not billboards. See, it says Club 5 Collage. This is just something that you download. So you won't have to put any images into a folder. And apparently doing this is actually cheaper than having screens running in your park, because it has to load these giant textures and pictures, and sometimes they don't actually load up and you have to go up to them and hit refresh. And I actually had to do that for these screens here. So it will be a bit of a shame if people download the park and these are just black images and they haven't refreshed properly and they got to reload them or swap them from movie to images for them to properly load. See, all this crazy buggy stuff happens. And yeah, it's not the greatest method. It's unfortunate. I mean, the tech for this wasn't very good and the engine's fairly old, but I do think that this is having one screen. I will try to convert it to TMTK later unless Jeffrey does it himself. It's a little bit on the to-do list in terms of just optimizing the park a little bit, but it definitely adds some flavor here because these are glass windows and you're looking through and you can view all the drum sets and view all the guitars, which is really cool. The interior of the shop is looking incredible. Let me turn my light off. So we have these little spotlights and things. I really like the design on the floors using the basic shapes, the circles, the dots, the waviness. Gives it a really cool aesthetic carpet or I guess floor design. We have all these like music rafters and things to support the lights, cables, wires, you know, all these instrument boxes. It's really nice, super nice. I love everything about this interior, and the setup's easy because it's just one straight path to the road, so the guests will come in, buy something, and leave. Now, what Jeffrey did, which was really cool, was he added this sequencer, and this is like the little Easter egg, the fun thing that we get to spotlight in this little showcase here. But what he did is he voice acted it himself, so it's him speaking, and he's speaking to I guess the shop owner, and then he wants to demo one of the guitars, and then there's like a little sequencer show that we're about to watch. And what I did is I added this character, which is supposed to be him. He generally dyes his hair like reddish or pinkish or something like that. So I try to make it look like him a little bit. I gave him one of Bakul's guitars, even though it's massive. It still works. It's kind of hilarious. I like it, so I added that in there. If you don't like this, Jeffrey, we could swap it out. But I thought, because the audio, there was no visual to line up with the audio. So now what we will hear when I play this is a guy talking and demoing a guitar, and we'll actually see it now. So I just wanted to build a visual for what you were hearing. And then there's the store clerk that he's talking to. I decided to put her down as well. And then I added one little trigger of my own that you'll see at the grand finale of this little sequence show. So why don't we show you what he added in here? And I believe the music that you're going to hear is just a little guitar riff that he did himself on his own guitar at home. So let's give it a play.
Hey, do you mind if I try out that Gibson 335? Yes, through the Marshall, please. And yeah, I promise, I won't play Stairway to Heaven, I won't play Smoke on the Water, or Sweet Child of Mine, or Enter Sandman, or anything by John Mayer.
Oh, so that's what I added. I made it so she would yeet, get knocked back from the explosion. I just thought that was a nice little subtle touch for the grand finale. As the speakers blew up, it kind of gave me flashbacks to my favorite movie of all time, Back to the Future. And Marty cranks up all the sounds on the speakers in Doc's little workshop, and then he hits the guitar and blows up and goes flying back. And I was like, oh man, we gotta add that in, where when the speakers blow up, she goes flying backwards. So I was like, okay, gotta add that in. So now there's a little bit of an audio. It's like he's talking to her, and then he blows up the speakers, she goes flying back. And I just thought that was a nice little touch to what he already made that was incredible. So if you agree with those changes, let me know, Jeffrey. We'll just leave it as is, or I could just revert it back to how you had it. They're all grouped up, so we could just remove them. But I thought it was a nice little touch, and it gave me a little bit of that pop culture Easter egg that we've been seeing so much throughout this park so far. So I think little references to our favorite things, whether it be Back to the Future or whatever, or just our own little Easter eggs from the channel, and that is great to add in throughout the park. So yeah, that's just a fun little interaction that you can get there with a guitar riff, showcasing some of Jeffry-Wynne's guitar skills there. So love to see it. That's amazing. That's our first incredible build of the episode. Let's move on to the next one. Boom. Here it is. It is the PlanCo toilets by KoazterKruzts. I don't know how to say your name. Krutz. But yeah, this is our Mainstreet toilets. When you get into the park, you need to be able to go to the bathroom. There are bathrooms littered throughout the park. I have one in my club over there, but it's definitely, I guess, I don't know if the guests have to pee when they first come in or not, but You got a builder sign here. I'll have to look at that after. I don't know if this was intended for me to be used or something, but yeah. So the toilets, a very interesting design. Again, using the pieces in different ways. This time we use the inverse effect where it's like the brown trim lining, which don't disagree with. I feel like it worked, and it's just using the colors in different ways and still have what's going on here. It's like, can you see into the bathrooms? Okay, no, you can't. I guess that's ventilation, but yeah, it's a really cool build. I like this flat wall with the little windows there. I don't think anyone has done that throughout any of these builds. So again, using the pieces in interesting ways. Now, what this person has done is made it somewhat interactable. So the guests can't come down here, but it is something for us, the park viewers, to come down. Apparently, there's a shed. So I guess that is a discussion point at this moment of the project, and another Easter egg of the pink penguin. So I'm trying to think what happened, but somebody talked about, oh yeah, okay. So there's a plot. Let me give you guys the backstory. I think it's this plot here. And I was making fun of it for being like a shed or something, or I don't really remember what was going on. But the person was making a shed and I said no sheds or something, and it spawned what is now called Shedmire. And there's a whole Discord for Shedmire. There's a whole bunch of memes like Shedzilla, the walking shed. I can't even, there's so many, I can't even wrap my head around it. But basically, I'm assuming there'll be a future park spotlight one day where we go visit Shedmire. And it's a collab project, just like here. Everybody has plots and they have to fill their plots with sheds. And I guess Meyer is a bit of a meme as well from the Wix community, because he was doing a part called the Black Mire. And then I feel like there were a few other Meyer parks that came out of it. Like there was Wheel Meyer, and it was all plots for like Ferris wheels. So Meyer is just like a thing that people tack on now for these like insane never-ending collab projects, thanks to Wix. And then the sheds have spawned from my community, and now there's this entire community doing shed art for what will inevitably be a future spotlight here on the channel. So little Easter eggs. I would imagine there will be more sheds to come in this park. So that's the thing. Just giving you guys the FYI, the backstory. You've seen it first here on Channel 5 Gaming. So these are the actual bathrooms, and you can come in here. There's lockers, I guess showers or bathroom stalls. I don't know. Why is there lockers? I guess if these were shower stalls, you would want a locker, but they're probably bathroom stalls. But the guests will walk in here. And then a garbage can. I could have put a garbage can in for you, but what I did is I put barriers inside these walls. It's probably hard to tell because the pathway, if you hover over it, you can see the path. The guests will walk right through these walls. So I put a little barrier here and a little barrier here, and now the guests AI has to go around the barrier. So they will walk in here, they will turn here, and then they'll go to the shop, and when they come out. So they won't be just like walking through walls, but it's a cool way. Like you could have just put the bathroom stall here and just called it a day, but you wanted to go in there and add a little bit of extra detail, make it a little bit more immersive for anyone that's like doing a walk around of the park. There's some Easter eggs back there. It's more of an interactive building rather than just like a little storefront outhouse or whatever. Some nice details on the side here that I didn't notice. That's also an interesting design using this build set. So I like that touch as well. So yeah, I think this is going above and beyond for a toilet shop. For sure, absolutely. And again, using the pieces in interesting ways that none of the other builds so far have used. And then the fun little interaction on the inside is really cool. So far, all of the buildings on Main Street have interiors, have something to go explore and look around at, and they're more of the intricate and complicated builds. And I think that's great because it's going to be your first impressions coming into the park, and you're going to have a little bit of fun. You could spend like a good 10-15 minutes just in this area of the park looking around inside of all these builds and having a good listen to some of these Easter eggs. So really cool stuff. There it is. Good job, KoazterKruzts. Let's go check out our last build of the day. Gadoosh. This is our Main Street park entrance created by Tanzos X-Wings. I mean, absolutely incredible. I think he said on the workshop 2,200 pieces. I think we gave him 4K. I'm not entirely sure. But this is phenomenal. Now, I just want to address it right away that like this is not final. We see all these characters here just alternating between Princess and Just Ribbon. At the time that the creator was building this, we did not have a lot of the TMTK ready. So what you will see in the future here is things like Foxy is going to replace one of these characters, right? And then we have like Chief Beef. He's going to replace one of these characters. Now that the characters are coming in, I can start replacing these placeholders. So all these alternating characters are placeholders. We're actually going to only have one Princess and one Just Ribbon, but I think we have about 30 characters that we're developing currently. So all of the characters that make up our PlanCo verse, our Project PlanCo, you know, are not only the ones that Frontier created. We took Princess Amelie and just made her our own. Just Ribbon never existed as a character, so we invented him and that sort of thing. So we elaborated or changed the currently existing characters or created them out of thin air. And with all of the different shops, because they're all based off of the shops and stuff, right? So if we go to the custom shops here, we have a Chow Mein. We now have a Miss Chow. So like there was never a face to the shop for Chow Mein. It's just a Chow Mein shop made by Frontier with zero personality. So we made Miss Chow, and now we're going to give Chow Mein and China its own character. So that same could be said for pretty much anything like Dune Delights. We have a character for that coming in, and all these shops that are in the game, all of them added up, I believe there's about 30 of them, and we have 30 reinvented characters. So we have 15 on this side, 15 on this side. I believe that should cover all of our characters. So massive shout out to Chant once again for reinventing and drawing 30 of the most incredible characters. And you guys will start to see them as the project unfolds more and more and more. You've already seen a few with previous episodes of the Chief Beef, the Pizza Bandit, Miss Foxy, and Just Ribbon here and Princess. So Chant's been contributing that to the project, and it's been a massive asset. But then a massive shout out to Batch, because he's the one actually cutting them out and turning them into TMTK. All I'm doing is converting the images into textures for Batch. So my part is very, very small there. I just take the characters, resize them, and then turn them into textures. So I'm just trying to help get them from Chant's hands into Batch's hands and make it as easy as possible for him to cut them out. And one of the processes we had with these before is he was cutting them out like this, but the new way we're doing it is much easier for him. I'm putting these thicker borders on the characters, and we're making them more like stickers. So you can see like this negative space. He doesn't have to cut all this out because I just colored it in with black, and I made the borders really thick. So you don't have to be so pixel perfect about the cuts anymore. And in theory, it actually kind of looks a little bit better because it has that little bit of a bold outline to it. Gives it more of like a sticker vibe. So that's what we're planning on doing with the park entrance, just to give you some behind the scenes. We're going to replace all these characters. We have these two placeholder screens here. I'm probably going to go into Photoshop and make some cool images of all the characters and the park or something like that, or just the characters, half of them here and then maybe the other half there, and then we're going to put those on the Planet Coaster screen. So these are also placeholders. It's set up so that when you first come into the park, you see all the Project PlanCo reinvented characters. They're right up front and center on the park entrance. And then as you explore the park, like when you eventually get to the back of the park, you guys seen this in a previous episode, we have the Just Ribbon Chop Shop. And eventually when we get to Wonderland, we're going to have a Princess Amelie thing. So, you know, you'll see them here. And then when you go adventure through the park, you'll see their actual, you know, hero attraction, their hero centerpiece or building that represents them. So they are represented here. And then as you go in, you'll find where they actually live or, you know, exist. So that's really, really cool. In terms of the architecture and design, Tanzos just knocked it out of the park. Just this really crazy organic, it almost feels like a coaster rail or coaster support. And the Planet Coaster build set kind of incorporates that a little bit with these kind of like railing pieces. You've seen them throughout some of these builds here. You know, they have these like railings and stuff that kind of represent like coaster supports and like a single rail coaster. I think that was the idea that Frontier was going for. It was making a build set kind of look like a coaster with all the waviness and support structures. And kind of, that's what this feels like. It feels just like a massive overarching coaster. And you see that in some parks when you come into the park entrance and there's a coaster going right over top. So maybe that is something we could add here if we can find it, or if somebody can link me something like a little baby coaster train. If we could put that on here, I think that would be kind of cool, right? It looks like it's going up and over a coaster. That might be like a neat little thing that we could add in there. Yeah. That'd be cool. But the build set itself is using the PlanCo pieces in a really cool and interesting way. I love the way this turned out. It's super clean. The shapes that you put in here, the tickets. Pathwork was super easy to set up too, in terms of actually deleting this to show you. You can see it's nice. Like, the guests won't walk through the pillars. They have to go around them, and they can go into the park entrance here. This is where it goes clink clink, and they can enter in. You need these in a park for the guests to even spawn. If you don't have one of these, the guests won't spawn. So that'll connect all in quite nicely, and it links up to our information kiosks really quite nicely. So probably the easiest thing to path and set up throughout this entire project, or one of the easiest. So thank you to Tanzos for that. Now, I will say, while I love how beautiful this pattern is, it scares the heck out of me, because look at this. Was there not a cheaper piece to use? Because is there not like a tile that you could put down in this game? I don't really know, but I felt my frame rate drop a little bit when I put this in. Not only because it has so many TMTK on the front, but all of these, they're not just one tile polygons. They are multifaceted objects that have to be rendered into the game, and there are like hundreds of them. So it's not really efficient, but it turned out amazing. And at the end of the day, this park is probably going to start catching computers on fire anyways, so I don't know how much of a difference. Like, if I delete this, do I get more frames? I got one extra frame. I got an extra frame. So yeah, maybe there's a more optimal way of doing it. At the end of the day, I'll leave it. It's fine. It looks really cool. It's very clean. It's a nice aesthetic, so I love it. And again, with the addition of the Coaster King on top is phenomenal, because it really does line up with our actual centerpiece quite nicely. So that is also just a great touch. You see it there, and then you come through the park and you see like a real version of him. That's just bananas crazy. So now you see that with the park entrance. We come on through, we got our toilets, which you just seen, we got our music shop, which you've just seen, and in a previous one of the earliest episodes of this series, you guys saw the cinema. It was probably the third or fourth episode. I'm not even sure at this point, but it was definitely the first couple. So I'm gonna have like a nice cool video that I'm making of a speed build of the project going on that screen later on. I guess we could throw a couple animatronics in here, but it's not really that necessary. So there's the cinema, really cool. And then coming over to this side, you guys saw in one of the earliest videos the restaurant here. Really beautiful stuff from Corella. There was music. I deleted it or turned it off. I will show what we can do for music going forward, but since this video is so late into the series, by the time Discord is actually watching it, all of the builds will most like you guys watching this now, this city's probably completed. Like, everything's probably in, because I'm releasing the videos slower than what we are building, the rate that we are building at. So what I'm about to show you for how I would like music done is something that I'm probably going to have to do myself. And now I learned how to do it, so we might as well do it in certain areas. But I'll show you what I mean in just a second. But this is KR's coffee shop. Turned out really great as well. Some pink penguins back there. There's the backside. And then last but not least, my build, which was one of the first things to go into the park. I just got it out and out of the way. Club 5, Planet Party. We'll turn it to night times for going inside here. And yeah, there's some, what do you call it? Fortune machines. There is my little Easter egg claw machine. There's an ATM to get money out. And the crowd is dancing. I trapped some guests in here. But a club wouldn't be a club without people getting sick. Music. So as a throwback to what we saw earlier in this video, Jeffry-Wynne Prince from The Bitter Elegance wrote this song for his band that I'm about to play. So the person that made the build in this episode also made the music that I attached to my stage here. So again, backstory here. There was a stream where sometimes people get me to put on a purple wig. It's kind of funny. It was a wig that my sister had for Halloween, and she's like, use this for your stream. So I had a funny stream where I put this wig on. And then Zell also put on a wig. He has like a whole bunch of wigs ready. And it was just like really ridiculous. So we became drag queens for a day on stream, and Chant redrew us as how we looked on stream. I had these glasses and the wig. That's how I looked, like literally. And then this is how Zell looked. Then she turned us into little PlanCo characters. So we're drag queens now. And then I turned us into animatronics. So this is our our little show. So the song I used is called Pretty Isn't Beautiful from the Bitter Elegance, to kind of make it so we're singing the song on stage. Let's have a listen.
Perfect skin doesn't make you indestructible. Pretty isn't beautiful.
Pretty isn't beautiful. I know that you're beautiful. I thought that was perfectly fitting. Pretty isn't beautiful. And there's me and Zell looking all pretty. Oh, it's stupid, but I love it. So shout out to the Bitter Elegance. If you guys want to listen to the full song and any of their other music, links are down in the description below to the Bitter Elegance Spotify playlist. So again, to my point of being able to have a sequencer that just randomly plays music, right? And it only plays it for 50 seconds, right? That way, like they do have like a radius. So if we have to go pretty far away for the music to stop. Like I could still hear it from here, which is insane. So you can imagine that like when people just put music on speakers like here, it's just on loop forever. And if this guy has a song and this guy has a song and this lady has a song and everybody's putting songs, and this could be like the noisiest park, and you can still hear the club music in the background from here. So if I put mine on loop, there's gonna be so much sounds. So what I'll probably do to this Mexalente shop in the future is put this, put a sequencer right here or like right here, I don't know, somewhere even on the front that triggers this to play for like a minute. That way it's like, okay, if you want that immersion, then we could just turn it on demand. On demand music is the way this stuff should be done. And this is what I recommend for anyone doing anything in the future, is just to reduce noise and noise overlapping and clashing with each other, is just to have a sequencer. And it was a bit of a tricky thing. I didn't know how to do it, so I'll give you guys a quick rundown. So what you want to do here is you take a display sequencer, you put it down, or no, you just put the sequencer down. So it's under scenery, just type in sequencer, and there it is. You put one of these guys down. Then you want to take the appropriate speaker, and the actual one you want is a display speaker. So it's this display speaker. Then what you do is you take this and you edit speakers and you select the display speakers. So they're already selected, that's why they're highlighted green. And I put one up here as well. So basically everywhere that you are in this club, you'll hear all of these speakers together. And this is great because if you have like a giant coaster that you want all the music to be heard from all ends of the coaster, you just put a speaker down like at every little 5 intervals or something like that. And then now that they're connected to it, you pick the song that you want on the sequencer. Then you go to edit trigger sequence, and the moment you add a trigger, so you add a display group, it automatically adds this display group of the speakers that are connected to it, but it'll add it with 0-second duration. So the clip that I put on here was 50 seconds long. So I set it to 49 because it actually starts to loop. There's like a bit of a 1-second delay when it ends. So you just set it to 1 second shorter than what your actual song is, right? So you have to add the display group and it'll select all the speakers. It's kind of weird because you already added them and then you're coming into here and you're adding them again. But now you're setting how long you want it. So if you want the song to play twice, you just double the duration. So yeah, mine's a 50-second clip. I put it on, so when I push play, and that way, when you select the sequencer and you hit play, it just plays the music. Now, if it's a coaster or something, you just trigger this sequencer when the coaster hits the top of the lift or something, and then all the music will start playing simultaneously. It will play what triggers we just set up there. So you could just hide this and trigger this off of something else like a coaster or a flat ride. So that's how you do it there. It was actually a little bit of a complicated thing to set up, so I just wanted to let you guys know if you're curious on how that's done. But at least that way you have control, like you just don't have like random music playing all the time everywhere, and you could just like push play. It's much better, much cleaner, and it's less noisy overall. But boom, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is our PlanCo Main Street. The whole area is in 6 buildings plus a park entrance. This is the first thing you're going to see when you enter the park. A build style that nobody's ever done, and I've been saying since this game came out, like 6 years ago. Oh, I would love to see what it would look like if somebody built a whole area of a park with this build style in particular. And here it is. This is what it would look like. While I do think it's a limited style, you can see that everybody has done it slightly differently and created their builds in different and unique ways. I think there's a lot of variation and variety with this build set. However, I do agree that if it was any larger than a strip, than a, you know, Main Street, and you built like a whole area of a park, like literally like a whole area, I think it would become a little overkill. It's a bit much. And it isn't the most wow factor, you know, when you compare it to something like France or Italy or whatever, Western, fantasy, sci-fi. It's just a little bit more on the boring side. But it's also clean, it's modern, it has nice shapes, angles, and waviness to it. So for the purpose that we used it here for a Main Street, I think that was the right amount and the perfect place, right? It's just the right amount, the right spot, not overusing it, not underusing it. I'm happy. I could retire happy now with Planet Coaster, knowing that we used this build set in an appropriate way and did it in, we went over the top with it, right? All these cool interactive builds, cinemas, music shops, clubs, restaurants, cafes. We got a little bit of everything, and my curiosity can rest easy. And the results of what we did here and how it came out, I'm actually quite pleased with it. I think it's a good build style when used in moderation, and I'm quite happy to see that it came together, because there was a point where I was starting to get concerned that this might be the cringiest park entrance Planet Coaster history. But I think it worked out. You know, the blues, the whites, it represents planets, coasters, that sort of thing. Planets, Earth is blue, Planet Coaster is blue logos. Everywhere we look, it's blue. It's Frontier's choice of color, blue. My channel's blue, so.
Is that what I think it is? Is that blue? Is that blue? This is blue? Blue? For blue! Is that blue and red with a bunny? Blue, red, and a bunny!
You know, we ran with it and it worked out just great. And it gives you that Planet Coaster representation right out of the get-go. And then as soon as you walk down the Main Street, boom, there's going to be a bunch more stuff to look at, so it doesn't get, we don't get that flavor fatigue, right? And I think that's just perfect. So, wow, there it is. We finally got Main Street in. Really excited about that. So I wanted to give you guys our first completed area for this series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video for Project PlanCo. Bye now.
For